Funerals held for IDF soldiers killed in Hezbollah attack. UNSC condemns death of peacekeeper by Israeli fire. Rivlin addresses UN at Holocaust Memorial ceremony. And US First Lady raises eyebrows with attire in Saudi Arabia. Shalom and welcome to the Jerusalem Post News. The top stories for January 29th. 2 IDF soldiers were killed yesterday in Hezbollah's anti-tank missile attack on the Israel-Lebanon border. The soldiers were named as Major Yochai Kalangel, 25 from Hagelo, and Staff Sergeant Dor Chaim Nini, 20 from Moshav Shtulim. Kalangel grew up in the West Bank settlement of Elazar and leaves behind a wife and their 1-year-old child. Kalangel was laid to rest today at Mount Herzl military ceremony in Jerusalem. Nini was laid to rest at Moshav Shtulim, where he grew up. 7 others were also wounded in the attack, which the US condemned.
We support Israel's legitimate right to self-defense and continue to urge all parties to respect the blue line between Israel and Lebanon as prescribed by UNSCR 1701. We also, of course, condemn the act of violence and will be watching the situation closely.
A Spanish UN peacekeeper was also killed in the Israeli return fire, for which Israel has apologized. The UN Security Council released a statement condemning his death.
The members of the Security Council condemned in the strongest terms the death of a UNIFIL Spanish peacekeeper, which occurred in the context of fire exchange along the Blue Line. The members of the Security Council expressed their deepest sympathy to the family of the fallen peacekeeper and to the government of Spain.
Israel said today that it received a message from Hezbollah transmitted via a UN peacekeeping force in Lebanon that it was backing away from further violence. President Rivlin addressed a UN ceremony yesterday marking International Holocaust Remembrance Day, held a day late due to the storm in New York.
לא הייתה זוועה בהיסטוריה של האנושות שתדמה באכזריותה, בהיקפה ובממדיה לשואת העם היהודי. ואולם, רצח עמים וקהילות לא נולד בגרמניה הנאצית, ולא חדל עם פתיחת שערי אושוויץ, בירקנאו, מיידנק ובוכנוולד. דווקא בעת הזאת, בה מרים הנחש הפונדמנטליסטי את ראשו המכוער, עלינו לזכור כי הרוע אינו נחלתה של דת כזו או אחרת.
Rivlin arrived in New York City on Sunday ahead of Winter Storm Juno and met with municipal and religious leaders as well as former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. On Tuesday, he held a working meeting with UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon in which they discussed cooperation between Israel and the UN, the rehabilitation of Gaza, and the various investigations around last summer's Operation Protective Edge. And US First Lady Michelle Obama raised eyebrows in Saudi Arabia this week when she met with recently instated King Salman without a headscarf but with a handshake. The Obamas were visiting the country to pay their respects to the royal family following King Abdullah's death. Though foreign women visiting Saudi Arabia are not required to wear a headscarf, the decision to go with hair uncovered drew criticism. Her handshake was also controversial, since men are usually forbidden to touch women under Islam. The White House defended the First Lady's choice of attire.
The attire the First Lady wore on this trip was consistent with what First Ladies in the past have worn. First Lady Laura Bush, what Secretary Clinton wore on her visits to Saudi Arabia, Chancellor Merkel on her visits to Saudi Arabia, and including other members of the United States delegation at the time.
And that's it for today. We'll be back on Sunday with more news from Israel. Until then, shalom from the Jerusalem Post studios.